Yo, it's Guido coming at you with a tactics talk. Hey, we're going to go a little bit negative here. We're going to talk about some controversial things, but we're going to start with things you can control. Some things you can control, and one of them is your initial positioning. You can see that I am in my RBFM. I'm top tier. This was probably 2 hours into a session, and I was just sort of on autopilot on my initial position decisions. I've been having a decent game or a decent day. So most of my decisions had worked, so I'm just kind of droning along, thinking, oh, I'll just go to the standard spot down here. Should have a good game. I'm top tier, but if you will look at the mini-map, I'll make it as large as it can get. Take a look at the mini-map and look at the positioning of my team, and then tell me if my decision to go to J2-3 was a good one or not. Well, let's find out. I think we know what's going to happen, and these are the kinds of decisions in a game that you make which affect your game and you have complete control over, right? Some people will say at this point, well, my team's a bunch of Muppets. They have deployed terribly. All right, well, that's true. But what did you do about it? And not only do I just go over here alone, I stop out in the open, get spotted, and lose some hit points. I lose some more hit points, and now I'm down to 70 hit points. Really, I should be dead. The Chaffee hit me there as well. I think I actually bounced 2. Although it's not showing up on the replay here, but I have 70 hit points now, and I am completely alone other than the M5, and the Lemming train has headed over to the northeast. And again, getting into the discussion about, well, my team did this, my team did that. Okay, noted, but what did you do? What did you do after you figured out that your team did this and that? So now I'm basically just looking to die in place. I'm going to have a hard time getting back. Really what I might have should have done is turned around and tried to help the Lukes and the guy in the middle. So I just have made bad decision after bad decision and compounded all of the problems I caused by not paying attention initially. Now my team is definitely Lemming trained, but that's where the strength is, right? They're pushing hard. Maybe I can hold over here. We'll see what happens. Probably not. And I'm just waiting to die, right? At this point, I'm trying to get another shot. I came this way hoping I could get that ELC, but he bails out. So I know this group of tanks down here is probably coming my way. They saw me. They know I have near 0 hit points. I'm just hoping to surprise one of them around right here. See if we can find one of them coming in. And at the end of the day, it's decisions like this that you make that change how your game goes, right? Had I gone with the Lemming train, I probably would have had more damage. I don't know if we would have necessarily won. I could have also hung out about where the Lukes was and stayed around some of my other guns, and then when these guys came around, try to take them and hold them off right here. But just driving out to the open, going to a place where nobody else is going, and then stopping and shooting guys, nearly every decision was wrong. All right, let's move on. So we have established that it's your decisions, largely, that determine whether you do well or poorly in the game, right? At the end of the day, it's primarily your decisions. Your team's decisions can hurt your ability, but your decisions have everything to do with what you do in the game. And it may be that it's a relative matter. How well you do in the game is 1,000 because your team's so bad they died before you could get the 1,000 out, but at least you did well enough to get the 1,000. Or it could be you won. Your decisions were good enough that you won and did 5,000. Or it could be your decisions were poor and you underperformed. But the question then is, if we've established that it is your decisions. In the first one, I understood that, and when I looked at the replay and considered the game, then I was aware of my own failings. In this game here, you can see that we're losing pretty badly. We had a push over here on the west side. I supported it a bit. You can see all the dead guys back there, and now I am falling back. Why? Because there's 1, 2, 3, 4 plus an artillery on that side. 4 of their tanks and 2 of them on the other side, and that's all 6. So it is me with 377 hit points against 4 tanks, and I'm just not going to be able to hold that. So I'm going to head out. I considered hanging out on these bushes right here, but I wasn't going to be able to hold that either, and there was no way to get away. So I'm going to keep going. Notice the M44. The M44 is sitting in the bush right there. So I see this M44. I get spotted. No surprise. I'm just hoping to get by over here without taking any more hit points of damage. Get into the bushes, get unspotted, and keep on trucking. I'm going to fall back to a spot that I know. considered these bushes as well, but these bushes are a death zone. As soon as I get spotted, it'd be over. So I'm going to head down here where I know there's some cover, and I can look at some of the cap, at least. Not all of it, but some of it. And I can have a reasonable expectation of defending myself. Hopefully the T-28 and the IS-6 win, and they come back, and they help me. So I'm going to come around here, and you can see that the M44 is sitting there without a clue. And the reason I'm showing this replay in this situation is because now he's starting to move. I got a nasty gram for the M44, and I'll give you one guess what he said. And it had something to do with, you're an idiot, you don't know how to spot, blah, blah, blah. And then he dies because he didn't leave soon enough. Why? Because he wasn't paying attention to the minimap or to the game or what was going on. A decision he made that cost him his tank and the game. Not a decision that I made, although he's going to feel really good about blaming me for that because I wasn't sitting over at C1 and 2 waiting to die, spotting for him. There we go. POS T-34 hides behind Artie for the loss. Never mind that I was up forward fighting the whole time. Never mind that I was actually paying attention to the minimap, and he should have been gone long before I ever passed him. As I was falling back, much before I was falling back, he should have run down to about a 8 or 9, got behind the heavies, and me, once I came back to screen for him, and he could have still been shooting back there at A8 or A9 trying to find these guys. So you can either realize that your decisions do cause wins or losses, or you can act like other people's do. Those are your two choices. I agree it's a little bit more nuanced than that, but ultimately that's it. Those are really the only two choices if you want to learn how to play the game and you don't want to stay bad. So I looked at this guy's stats. He's got a lot of battles. He's bad. He hasn't learned anything, and it's indicated, at least in this sample size of 1, by looking at his actions in the game and saying, well, that checks with the stats because he doesn't have a lot of SA. He's not paying attention. And then he is so quick to blame somebody else. So quick to blame someone else. All right, for the third example, let's go ahead and kind of wrap this thing up and just take a look at the deployment. Again, I'll make the minimap larger, less mini. I'll make it less mini, more maxi. Look at this deployment, and right off the bat, I know we have trouble. One of the problems currently is that the teams are made up of so many TDs. And depending on whether it's a mobile kind of assault TD or even just a mobile TD, is going to depend a lot on whether you get any kind of help on one flank or the other. And even though the critical terrain on this map is up here in the northwest, it doesn't matter to most players who don't consider that kind of thing. All they consider is the tank they're in and where they like to fight. So again, decisions are being made by players, but in this case, I actually recognize what's going on as opposed to just driving my RBFM into the bad spot. First I try to go up here just because I realize that it's going to be goofy. This game's probably going to be very difficult to win. So I'm just going to go here and we'll see if we can get some shots. Remember I said, when you react to it, it may be that your reaction is just to minimize the loss, as in get some damage out of it. Depending on your team's deployment, it may be very difficult to get anything out of a game. But you can at least try to maximize the potential of that game. Now, the 14.5 and the Pershing zing on in there, and I'm thinking, guys, this is not a good idea. Their fast tanks are already there, and there's quite a few of them. Never mind the slow ones who are going to follow up. And I don't know if they have any slow ones right now, but I do know one thing. We don't have any coming up. Wait, there's a Ferdinand way down. I don't know what he's doing. He's down by those buildings. I guess he's shooting across. And now I can see the massive stack. We have 2 guys. And at this point, all I'm doing is figuring out when I'm going to cut my losses. Can I get one more shot of damage maybe in these guys? Let's see if we can get a piece of him. There we go. One more on the T-44-100. And they're pretty soon going to just push into that Pershing and take him out. We have a bunch of guys who push down to the peninsula. The peninsula just takes a while to win, even if they send a couple down there. If you lose wholesale right like we did right there, this is going to be very difficult to come back from. It's only 1-2. So a lot of players without a lot of experience or capability are going to look at this and go, well, it's okay. You know, it's only 1-2. But the writing's on the wall, and this is why I'm leaving. I'm just going to head back here, and at this point, I'm in farming damage mode. There's not a whole lot I'm going to be able to do with this light tank right now to turn this into a win, unless we can whittle some of these hit points away and get some lucky hits and whatnot in here. But look at the Ferdinand's dying. He's got nothing going on. The Bulldog tries to fall back. The WZ tries to fall back. We finally got a Sturve moving into maybe support, but our overwhelming push down on the peninsula has been chewed up and is stalled. So the entire deployment, this entire deployment has just been awful, and I've basically turned into farming mode. Let me get as many hit points out of this disaster as I can. And you can see these things developing if you're paying attention to the game and you understand how the game's played, what the critical terrain is. A lot of times when I go back and I look at the player rolls on these, you'll find guys with 5,000 to 6,000 battles, and they're excused to some extent. I mean, I don't think it really takes that long. That's an unfortunate bounce off of a GF. I even managed to get the lead fire right. Slow shell velocity on this thing. So low number of battles. All right, excused for the most part. But it really doesn't take that much to start learning. And this is just a wholesale slaughter. You look at the positioning, another unlucky bounce that goes into his mantlet, it looks like. I probably stayed a little longer than I need to right here, and so I'm going to bail out. Maybe get a shot on this guy if I'm lucky. Nope, miss him. And we'll head on down here, and really it's just trying to stem the bleeding from my DPG. And while I hate that, at some point, that's all you got. It really is. At some point, that is all you've got. I just got hit by the WZ. Trying to jiggle a little bit, make it hard. There's another one that misses, thank goodness. And still our heavies are pinned down. I don't have a lot of good options, so I'm going to come around here. Try to get cover from the guys that are over there. Look how many have flexed back of theirs. And we just lost on every front, really. It's very possible even with a good deployment, we end up losing this based on what's happening. I can't get out of here because I actually got stuck on this stupid tank. I get absolutely massacred by the 5100 who hits me 3 times. Maybe get the Scorpion G. Gave way too many hit points up right there, getting stuck on the dead tank. 711, I'm looking for one more shot on this guy. There we go, and down we go, we die. He kills me off. 43 hit points. What did I do to him? 225. Slight low roll. I needed a really good high roll to take him out. And end of game. 936. Not really great. 2 kills. Look at the team roll, though. We got absolutely steamrolled. Look at the team roll. We got steamrolled. So to wrap all this up, the point of all this is, if you're watching my channel, I think you probably know this. If you're new to the channel and you're trying to figure out the game, this is something you really need to internalize and learn. How good you are at this game relies a lot on how honest you are with your gameplay and not blaming other people. Once you start putting your mistakes at the front of what you want to learn, and you're willing to look at your own mistakes and learn from your own mistakes, once you start doing that, then open the aperture and start looking at other people's mistakes. But don't blame your inability on them. Understand it for what it is. Realize it's part of the equation. It's part of the calculus. But ultimately, you can't control them. You can only control you. So endeavor, strive, look to make yourself better. That will, interestingly, make your teams better, just because they're going to have a better teammate on the team. It will make your teams better. Not individually as players, but because you're on the team, you're more of an asset. It will make your team better. And eventually, at some point, somebody will ask you, how do I get better? And you'll actually have an answer, as opposed to, well, I don't know. It's the team's fault. It's matchmaker's fault. It's RNG's fault. If you get to 30,000 battles and you're not able to pull down 50% win rate, and I may be talking to some people who have been watching my channel for a while, so I noted I got it. But it may be that you're going to have to start being a little bit more honest with yourself on what you're doing. Anyway, that was kind of a lot right there. I don't really like to go negative too much, but sometimes it does get frustrating when you see things like these last 3 battles, where teams just sometimes I say it is, what is the word I'm looking for? They're just fixated on doing the wrong thing. Fixated on doing the wrong thing. I think sometimes people will be like, Guido, you know what? If they want to play that way, people can play the way they want. It's just a game. It's a random tank game. All right, noted. That's true. And I do agree with that on the surface. What I disagree with is people that are like that and then turn around and say, it's the team's fault I lose. If you come at me and go, Guido, I rage around and have fun and I don't give two craps where I go or what you think about me, then hey, good deal. But don't then turn around and go, and by the way, the reason my win rate's low is because my team suck. or matchmaker or RNG. Those two don't go together, man. All right, that is all I got, guys. Thanks for tuning in. I do appreciate it. Like I said, don't like to go negative too often, but I just wanted to throw all of that out there. Have a thought about it. Tell me where I'm wrong down in the comments. Thanks for tuning in. As always, we will see you.